in international relations.
With the case of studies, the United Nations and the English School itself.
Enjoy the video!
The English School of International Relations, also known as the International Society or British Institutionalism, is a theoretical approach that emerged in the late 1950s. It emphasized the role of international institutions, norms, and a shared international society in shaping the behavior of states.
The English school focuses on the study of international society as a distinct concept and seeks to understand how states interact within a framework of shared norms, values, and institutions. The school argues that exists within a broader international society characterized by common rules, values, and institutions which contribute to the development of international order.
Notable scholars associated with the English school include Hadley Bull and Martin White.
The third, international order. The concept of international order is central of English school thinking. It argues that international society needs a degree of order to function effectively. 4. Justice and ethics. Unlike some other international relation theories, the English school places a strong emphasis on ethics and justice in international relations. It argues that a state should uphold principles of justice and morality in their interaction with one another. 5. Tradition of thought. The English school identifies three traditions of thought within international relations: the Hobbesian tradition, the Grotian tradition, then the Kantian tradition. 6. International institution. The English school sees international institutions as important component of international society. This institution helps states to coordinate and cooperate, and they contribute to maintenance of order and justice in the international system. In summary, the English school offers a comprehensive framework for understanding international relations that combines elements of realism with strong emphasis on international society, order, ethics, and institutions.
Dive deeper into the primary concept of the English school, such as the international society, balance, order, justice. It emphasizes several primary concepts include 1. International society. This concept suggests the states exist not just in an anarchic international system but also within a broader international society. The English school argues that states form societies with shared norms, values, and rules that help shape their interaction. 2. Balance of power. The English school acknowledges the importance of the balance of power in international relations. However, it argues that balance of power politics should be complemented by a concern for creating and maintaining international order through cooperation and diplomacy. 3. International order. The concept of international order is central to the English school thinking. It argues that international society needs a degree of order to function effectively. This order is not just about power balancing but also about the establishment of rules, institutions, and norms that guide state behavior and promote stability.
The next explanation that we will explain you how the UN embodies or challenges the principle of the English school, consider the establishment and objectives of the UN. But first, we have to know what is exactly the establishment and objectives of the UN. The United Nations Charter, while drafting the Charter of the United Nations, the experience and practices of the League of Nations were mostly relied upon. So, the purpose and the principle, Chapter 1 of the Charter lays down the purpose and principle of the United Nations. Article 1 of the United Nations talks about the purpose of the United Nations. They are maintaining international peace and security, developing friendly relations amongst the nations, achieving international cooperation to solve international issues of social, economic, cultural, of humanitarian nature, being a center to harmonize the action of the state to accomplish these common goals. So the main objective of this purpose was binding the organization and its members to coordinate their activities in order to accomplish accomplish these common goals. Article 2 of the UN Charter, ensuring sovereign equality of all its members, that talks about this rule in place that all the members of the UN have equal representation. All the members of the UN are required to fulfill in good faith the obligation assumed by them in accordance with the Charter. All the members of the UN are obligated to settle their dispute by peaceful and amicable means in such a manner as to not endanger or jeopardize international peace, security, and justice. So, based on this situation, non-interference of the United Nations in matter relating to the domestic jurisdiction of any state. This rule mandates the United Nations not to interfere where the matter is solely of domestic jurisdiction of a state. Talking about the objective of United Nations that related to the English School of International Relations is a theoretical framework that emphasizes the importance of society. So, institution and international norms in the three main concepts. There is the international system, international society, and the world society in shaping global politics. The United Nations, or UN, can be seen as both an embodiment and a challenge to the principle of English School in several respects. The first is embodiment of principle. International society. As you know, the UN embodies the principle of international society by uniting countries from all over the world under the same umbrella. It recognizes the existence of an international community with shared norms, values, and interests. What is the institution? So, the UN is a key institutional actor in global politics, providing a platform for countries to interact, negotiate, and collaborate on a variety of issues. The General Assembly, such as Security Council and specialized agencies, reflect the institutional structure supported by the English School theory. The second is the norms and rules. The UN contributes to the development and maintenance of global norms and rules through treaties, resolutions, and conventions. These conventions set standards for, among other things, human rights, such as humanitarian intervention and non-proliferation. Thus, reflecting shared values in the international community, which strongly reflects the English School concept of manifesting a complement framework for each country of implements. Because the English schools really concern about the norms and international society, so this is very related each other that UN implemented and manifested by the English School theory itself. Challenges to the principle is there is a power politics. Despite is emphasized on the cooperation and norms, the UN often face challenges due to power politics. For example, the veto power by the Council had by the five permanent, for example like Russia, USA, China, and so on, can hamper collective decision making and weaken the democratic principle. Also, the state sovereignty. The UN operates within a framework of the state sovereignty, which may limit its ability to intervene in its conflict or address human rights violation. Adherence to the principle of non-intervention in domestic affairs can sometimes limit effectiveness of UN in fulfilling its responsibility. So, UN only show about organization. So, but in the English School itself, that talks about how the institution in long term. So there's a cultural diversity also that shaping international society. However, the structured decision-making process and norms of the UN often reflect the dominance of Western countries and their hegemonic interests through states, so that there is a dominant monopoly in the atmosphere of political stability and international relations. So that this limiting the extent to which the UN realized the principle of cultural diversity exposed by the English School. Although the UN embodies many of principles, but also there is many challenges and limitations that will be explained in the next.
Also, the UN seeks to promote international law. There are cases where the countries violate international norms or do not comply with UN resolutions. This reflects the challenges in upholding the principles of English School theory. The UN Security Council has great power in determining international actions, and this can raise questions about the extent to which the principles of equality between states are realized in practice. English School theory in some ways challenges the concept of absolute sovereignty of states. However, many countries still fiercely defend their sovereignty, so the UN has had to face difficulties in encouraging closer cooperations.
How the English School principles are reflected in the United Nations operation and decision making. First, development of international society theory. The United Nations emphasizes on international law, treaties, and the agreement aligned with the concept of international society introduction by the English School. Second, normative approach. The United Nations often address issues of justice, ethnic, and morality in the global society with a lens with the normative dimension of English school. It promotes human rights, solidarity intervention, and sustainable development, although the application of this norm and be influenced by power politics. Third, historical analysis. The United Nations Charter and principle reflect a historical perspective, acknowledging the importance of learning from the past conflict. Fourth, reference. The United Nations role in addressing contemporary global issues like climate change, peacekeeping, and the global health crisis align with the relevance of the English school focus on norm and institution in today's world.
I will continue about the complexity. The UN recognized the presence of the various non-state actors and transnational issues in the international system. While primarily state-centric, the UN engaged the non-state actor, reflecting the English school consideration of the role of the non-state actors with international society. The UN may face challenge addressing emerging issues like cyber warfare or dealing with the rise of populist nationalism, which may require adapting of its traditional framework. This challenge may test the applicability of English school principles. Practicality. The UN commitment to diplomacy and conflict resolution aligned with the English school emphasize on dialogue or the cooperation, but practical application can be constrained by power, politics, and national interests. Nonetheless, the UN doesn't reflect aspect of English school principle. It is the cooperation and decision making, particularly the areas related international law, norms, and ethics. However, the application of this principle is subject to complexity and challenge of the contemporary global political landscape. The UN remains a relevant institution for addressing global issues while navigating the balance between state sovereignty and international norm.
One of the example of English school theory in the United Nations is on the human rights. Equality of people, in a sense, is an international phenomenon, and as it is founded adherence to a shared standard between states. Equality of people is routinized both through its monitoring via United Nations channels and via bilateral diplomatic contacts. It is based on ideas of human dignity and equality and includes norms and rules. It is consciously reproduced by actors, endorsed by most states and constitutive of them to the next extent that respecting the minimal standards of it. Standards is what makes a state a full member of international society. The fact that the resolution that established the HRC, or Human Rights Committee, was accepted by 170 states also points to the critical mass of states that endorse the notion of a common minimal standards.
UN's action in response to the Rwandan genocide can be seen as against the English school perspective. The genocide against the Tutsi in Rwanda in 1994 resulted in the deaths of up to 1 million people and the rape of as many as 250,000 women. The UN's response to the genocide was criticized for failing to uphold universal human values and norms. Some of the examples of how acted against the English school: the UN Security Council failed to recognize the signals that genocide could be sparked in Rwanda. Even after the genocide had begun, the wholesale slaughter of civilians wasn't being conveyed to the Council. Also, the capacity of the United Nations to reduce human suffering in Rwanda was severely constrained by the unwillingness of member states to respond to the changed circumstances in Rwanda by strengthening the UN's mandate and contributing additional troops. The UN's response was criticized for being slow and inadequate. The UN's failure to protect civilians in Rwanda led to an appalling humanitarian catastrophe in eastern DRC in 1995, which led directly to the civil wars in the DRC and human tragedy on an even more massive scale.
That's all from us.
Hope it useful. Thank you.
Wassalamualaikum.